Okay, so we've got some kind of big news today coming from Monolith Studios, the makers of Shadow of War. Monolith today has announced that they will be removing all microtransactions from the game. There will be no more marketplace, no more war chests. You will no longer be able to buy anything with real money. You can't buy any more chests. You'll no longer be able to get any orcs from their chests. So, a little bit of backstory on this in case you've been living under a rock or have never heard of YouTube. There was kind of a lot of outcry over the microtransactions in this game, and full disclosure here, I was kind of on Monolith's side. Not in that I like microtransactions. Everybody hates microtransactions. I just felt that Monolith did a good job in not making these microtransactions mandatory at all. I personally think that this was something that was brought up as a clickbait, rabble-rousing kind of thing by a couple of YouTubers, and I feel like certain noteworthy YouTubers like Total Biscuit and Jim Sterling just kind of embarrassed themselves by making up this story just to try to get clicks about how this game was just unplayable without microtransactions. I've played all the way through the game. I've never bought any of the microtransactions. I have about $40 worth of the gold currency in the game that I just earned through playing the game, and I've never spent it. Never needed it. It's completely unnecessary. However, one way or another, it doesn't matter because it's being removed from the game. We're being promised new additions to the game in July. July 17th is when this is all going down. And it really does sound pretty great. In addition to the changes with the microtransactions, removing the microtransactions, we're being promised Nemesis updates. I imagine they'll add some more orcs to the game. We're being promised new skins, new skill tree additions, which that's kind of interesting. I don't know if we'll get new skills, or maybe they'll give us the ability to use more than one upgrade on a skill. There are a couple of skills where that would be really, really nice. New gear system updates. We don't know if that means that we'll be getting new gear or just changes to the way the gear system works. They did specify some changes to the way the gear system will work that is in regards to the microtransactions, and I'll cover that in a minute. And progression updates. We don't know specifically what that means, but again, they did kind of specify a couple of things. They said that they will be making some changes to the way the Shadow Wars play out at the end of the game. Sounds like they're probably going to be shortening the Shadow Wars. A common complaint is that people think that the Shadow Wars are too long. You have to do 20 different missions, which is a little bit excessive. And they said specifically that they're going to make the Shadow Wars a, quote, more cohesive experience, end quote. So, if you played Shadow of War and you've played their first DLC expansion, the Blade of Galadriel, you probably realize that the two endings for these don't really match up very well. There's nothing in Blade of Galadriel that specifically contradicts the ending, but the explanations for how they might work together and connect are a stretch, to say the least. They don't line up real well. And I expect that that's what they're going to do. I expect they're going to change the way the Shadow Wars play out in the main game so that they match the stuff in Blade of Galadriel that is going on at the same time a little bit better. So the garrison in the game where you store orcs and where you get treasure chests, that will still exist. You will still be able to get certain treasure chests. I think you'll be able to earn some loot boxes. but the war chests that you could get that had orcs in them are completely going away. You will not be able to get orcs through the marketplace anymore. The only way to get orcs is now going to be to find them in the world. And this is the reason that they said they're doing this. They said that they've decided that buying orcs in the marketplace kind of short circuits the Nemesis system, and it makes it so that you would not get the stories that you would get by encountering your orcs naturally through the game. And I definitely agree with this. I've never bought any orcs from the marketplace, and that's the reason why, is I think that it kind of diminishes the game a little bit to do that. But you will still have the garrison, which you kind of need the garrison because that's how you move your orcs between areas. If you wanted to take an orc from one area and move him to a different area, you would have to have the garrison. You're also still going to have training orders. You are still going to be able, I think, to get loot boxes of some sorts where it's just equipment rather than the orcs. But you won't be able to buy those anymore. I think there are challenges where you can still earn loot boxes with equipment in them, but you cannot buy those. The Mirian used to be used to buy loot boxes. That's the in-game currency, not the currency that you can purchase with real money. But you used to be able to buy loot boxes with that. That will no longer be a possibility. So to make up for that, they are giving you a new use for your Mirian. Your Mirian can now be used to upgrade your equipment to your level, which is kind of nice. Because before you might get a piece of equipment that you really, really like, but it's lower level than you, and or it's probably not when you get it, but you level up and you can't level up your equipment with you, so it eventually becomes worthless. So now you'll be able to spend Mirian to upgrade your equipment. You can also, they said you'll be able to buy training orders for your orcs, so that's kind of cool. Gems, they said you're now going to be able to spend your excess gems to reroll gear stats. So that's kind of cool. So I imagine that's going to be for the secondary ability on your gear. Epic and legendary gear has a secondary ability that it's not entirely random. It's based on the way that you killed the orc oftentimes, I've found, but it could be one of various different abilities, and I'm guessing that's what you're going to be able to do, is you're going to be able to spend gems to get a different ability on that, to trade your ability, your secondary ability, for something else. So that's some really good news for equipment. That should help to be able to create some equipment that is going to be, or to get equipment that has the skills that you want easier. So that's kind of cool. They've also said that just in general, there will be more legendary orcs in the world now. Another big change is you're now going to be able to recruit orcs during online conquests and vendettas. So that means that from now on, if you're playing the game online, you will be able to recruit the orcs. That means that people can recruit each other's orcs. You can bring an orc over from another player's game into your game by doing a vendetta. Now, whether that will only work on the ranked matches, or if you can do it on just the friendly matches, I don't know. If you can do this on the friendly matches, people could abuse this to move all of their orcs over to other people's games. You could trade and even duplicate orcs with your friends. We'll see how they handle that. There will be no more war chests. War chests were the loot boxes that contained orcs. If you have unopened war chests in the garrison, you will be able to keep those, and they'll work the same in the future. But after, I think it's May 8th, you will no longer be able to buy war chests. The marketplace closes completely on July 17th. Let's see, you can still get the chests from the pit fights that contain just training orders. There's no problem with training orders. Let's see, the war chests that you earn through doing the online conquests and vendettas, they used to contain orcs. They will no longer contain orcs. Now they will contain training orders, and each war chest is guaranteed to contain one legendary training order. What they mean by legendary training order, I'm not entirely sure. There is a training order that is a legendary training order that makes an orc into a legendary orc, and that could be what they mean. It would kind of make sense if that's what they mean. But it's also possible that they just mean that one random training order that gives a legendary skill. That would not be quite as good. But I think they probably mean the actual legendary training order that upgrades an orc to legendary status. But we will have to wait and see on that. The challenges, the daily challenges that they used to have, those are changing because they used to often give you gold. So any challenge that would have given you gold will now give you a random piece of legendary gear. So I'm sure there are a lot of people who are going to be really happy with this news because people don't like the microtransactions and they are gone. So in this particular instance, whether it's for the reasons that they say, or just because people were so unhappy with the microtransactions and they're reacting to people's outrage about the microtransactions, who knows? But one way or another, the microtransactions are gone in Shadow of War. They will cease to exist on they'll be phased out between May 8th and July 17th. And one thing that I will point out here, a lot of people claimed, I think it might have been IGN or one of the major review sites, probably a couple of major review sites, had claimed that you needed the microtransactions to get through the Shadow Wars. That is completely and utterly false. They don't even help you get through the Shadow Wars. But I will just point out that they are removing these microtransactions and they are not giving you a new way to get orcs. There's not anything coming into the game that is going to change how you get the orcs, that's going to give you a new way. So I think that obviously shows that they don't think that the microtransactions are necessary to get through the Shadow Wars. Although that does come with a little bit of a caveat because they have said that they are making some changes to how the Shadow Wars work. So they may be shortening the Shadow Wars too. And if that's the case, somebody could still make the argument that they're having to shorten the Shadow Wars because you don't have the microtransactions. But I can tell you from personal experience that is just completely not true. Microtransactions were not even helpful in getting through the Shadow Wars. That was just that was something that was made up by a reviewer who had made up his mind before he ever played the game.